We had the pleasure yesterday of speaking with several of the advocates, religious clerics that are here visiting, and that is such an important dialogue. But let me first provide an overview of you, sir, for those who may not already be familiar with our work. Just over 20 years ago, Congress passed the International Religious Freedom Act, or IRFA, with the goal of making religious freedom a higher priority for the United States in terms of foreign policy. This law created USERF, as well as the State Department's Office of International Religious Freedom. So to be clear, USERF is not a part of the State Department, but we certainly work with the State Department. So why did Congress create a commission dedicated to religious freedom? Congress realized that by promoting religious freedom, the needs to be free from partisanship and politics. To that end, USERF is both independent and bipartisan, which provides us with a unique position from which to monitor and report on violations of freedom of religion abroad. At a time when it seems there is so much that divides us, freedom of religion or belief in an issue that cuts across party lines is vital. I am proud to serve as a part of a unique bipartisan body fighting for this right around the globe. Moreover, USERF focuses exclusively on religious freedom, and we do not feel pressured by U.S. government's overall economic or security or domestic relationship with a country, with a particular government. Each year, we issue an annual report describing religious freedom conditions in countries considered to be among the worst violators of this fundamental right. In it, we also provide clear, actionable policy recommendations that go to the President, to Congress, to the Secretary of State, all about how to advance religious freedom throughout U.S. foreign policy. Under IRFA, the State Department is required to designate countries of particular concern, or CPC countries, with governments that engage in or tolerate systematic, ongoing, and egregious religious freedom abuses. In our report, we recommend to the State Department which countries meet this standard. USERF uses international human rights standards, not United States domestic law, to assess religious freedom conditions around the world. Article 18 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, a bedrock of international human rights law, states that everyone shall have the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This language is echoed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In addition, the covenant instructs governments to refrain from coercing individuals in ways that would prevent them from practicing or adopting the religion of their choice. USERF's reliance on these international legal standards is crucial because it makes clear that religious freedom is not simply an American ideal. It is a shared global human right. So what does this mean for Vietnam? First, the Vietnamese government signed and ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in 1982. In so doing, Vietnam promised the world that it would respect and implement Article 18's protection for religious freedom. That was a very welcome step, but unfortunately, it has proved meaningless in practice. In the 4 decades since, Vietnamese authorities have continued to harass independent religious organizations, imprison religious freedom advocates, and force religious minorities to renounce their faith. For these reasons, in 2004, the State Department designated Vietnam as a country of particular concern. This resulted in a binding agreement between the United States and Vietnamese governments, which could have been an opportunity to provide Vietnam with a roadmap to improve its record on religious freedom over the long term. Indeed, at the time, USERV noted that some progress was being made. Unfortunately, in 2006, the State Department removed Vietnam from the CPC list to acknowledge the Vietnamese government's efforts. Despite what seemed to be a diplomatic victory for both Vietnam and the United States, religious freedom conditions in Vietnam deteriorated almost as soon as the CPC designation was lifted. As many of you in this audience know all too well, the situation in Vietnam has only gotten worse since then. Under the Law on Belief and Religion, which went into effect on January 1st, 2018, Catholics, Hmong, and Montagnard Christians, Wat House Buddhists, Cao Dai followers, Kumar Hmong Buddhists, and other religious groups have experienced increased restrictions on their ability to practice their faith. We also cannot forget about Thien Nguyen Do, patriarch of the United Buddhist Church of Vietnam. Last year, my fellow commissioner and colleague, Christina Arriaga, adopted Thien Nguyen Do as part of USERV's Religious Prisoners of Conscience project. And while he is no longer under effective house arrest, USERV remains very concerned about his current conditions and overall well-being. We urge the Vietnamese government to leave him in peace. The Vietnamese government might believe that it can prevent the truth about religious freedom conditions from reaching the international community. Unsurprisingly, it has failed, thanks in large part to the fantastic work of our friends at Boat People SOS and other Vietnamese human rights groups. We at USERV use your information to shine a light on the abuses and hold perpetrators responsible and accountable. We're also fortunate to have the support of so many members of Congress who follow the situation in Vietnam very closely. So what can we do? Fortunately, the United States government has more tools at its disposal than ever before to promote religious freedom abroad. First, for the reasons I have discussed earlier, the State Department should redesignate Vietnam as a country of particular concern. This will send a clear signal to Vietnam that we are watching its religious freedom record closely. This designation is also important because if the State Department designates a country as a CPC, then under IRFA, the United States government is legally obligated to carry out concrete policy action. Second, the United States government must use every tool at its disposal to target specific Vietnamese officials and agencies that have participated in or who are responsible for the severe violations of religious freedom. This includes possible use of targeted sanctions under the Global Magnitsky Act and IRFA. Finally, the U.S. Agency for International Development and other development agencies should incorporate religious freedom into every capacity building program for local governments and civil society organizations in Vietnam. It is important to ensure that all stakeholders appreciate the importance of religious freedom and understand their rights and their obligations under international law. In conclusion, I would like to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for being here today in our country and for making your voices heard. It is because of the spirit and the energy of people like you that I am ultimately hopeful about the future of religious freedom in Vietnam. You, sir, stand ready as a member of this team with each of you, ready to work toward a better outcome for all Vietnamese. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Langton. And now we have set the trombone in here. Here, and